What is up, everyone? Welcome to TCR Live. We are back again. Same old story. I mean, we don't even have. We are they going to win another game, Kyle? Let me ask you that. Are they going to win one more game? Just one more game this year?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think we're losing out.
You know, I think there's a good chance that I if I'm not being snarky, I think they find a way to win something. Just maybe that Atlanta game, maybe the Bengals. But it would not shock me if they go over. It's and this was when you look at the remaining games. I mean, Jaguars have been a decent team this year, winning record. This was one of the games of going into the season. You certainly were like, okay, if this team is going to be a winning team this year, this is a game they have to win. And then when they stopped looking like a winning team, but we're like, well, maybe they'll be a scrappy team. This was a game you looked at, thought, okay, maybe they could pull it off. And listen, they were close enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're close enough, but didn't happen. And it's just getting to be old. So those of you who were with us last week, we, have a new kind of format that we're doing where rather than talk about what the Cardinals need to do to correct course this season because it is too late, even if they get stuff together, it's too little too late. We're focusing on 2026 and beyond. And kind of our whole sort of platform and the way we're approaching this is sort of a bring him back or send him packing. We're looking each week, it's sort of a stock report, a stock watch. It's looking at a couple players or people from the coaching staff or front office each week who, based on what we've seen this week, have maybe increased up their stock or down or lowered their stock in terms of thinking of them as a player or a piece of the future, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying they're going to cut the player, but if someone's stock is down, it means we think, well, if they are, when their contract ends, they're not coming back. They might cut them. They might trade them. They might just have reduced role, or they might just play out the rest of their contract and then say, see ya, right? But in one way or the other, we're talking about players or people in the front office and the coaching staff each week that we think have shown us in this week that their stock is rising or falling as a part of the future, right? So it was a disappointing game. Cardinals lost, 27-24. I guess at least we're back to losing close games. I don't know that that's much of a silver lining, but at least we didn't get blown out. I don't know. What do you say, Kyler?
I mean, that is cold comfort at this point in year three. Being proud of moral victories or being proud of close losses is completely lost on me at this point, and I think the entire fan base has lost it. That's acceptable year one. It is not acceptable in year three.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Now, oh, sorry, I got turned around. I do think that there's a better than even chance we go winless. And it'll come up, I am sure, when you talk about one of your people who you plan on or want to send packing. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start with someone to bring back.
Okay.
That is a callback to stuff that you were talking about last week. You were the one talking about him, but I thought Jalen Thompson played a great game. Last week you were talking about him in regards to Budda Baker and what's the future of the safety room. Maybe Jalen Thompson and one of the young guys is the future of the room. And regarding the future of the safety room as a whole, not really talking about that, but based on this game, Jalen Thompson, a guy who I think we kind of went into the season with expectation that this is his last year with the team. His contract's coming up, and there are other options in the room, and of course Budda has been a mainstay in that position room as well. But Jalen Thompson and the safety room as a whole just had a really good game. He forced that fumble that ended up being Walter Nolan's big man interception touchdown. The safety blitzes, the delayed safety blitzes looked really nice from Nick Rawlis this game, which is one of my one, I guess, nice surprises of this game was I thought Nick Rawlis was back in his bag. Like
Mm.
he was bringing up really creative pressure packages at the right times, and I think that side of the ball played really well. They turned the ball over 4 times, and the offense just couldn't do anything with it. And a part of that was Jalen Thompson. I think he had a pass defense as well. Like he just had a really good game all around. Um, and regardless of what the future of that room is going to look like, I think based on this week's performance, Jalen Thompson had a really nice performance. If we did end up going that direction, like you talked about last week, I'd be comfortable with that. I think he's a great player. And he has weeks like this every once in a while where he really, really pops off.
Yeah, it was that obviously that fumble was nice, and he's been one of their better, more consistent players all season. So I agree with you, and we talked about this last week. And I'm gonna kind of stick with the safety room, and this is definitely a callback to last week because last week I had him as a stock up and talked about that I had some concerns about the future of Buddha in terms of his grades have dropped down this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the worst graded season of his career, and we talked about the age. But I'm putting Buddha on my stock up this week. He had a 77.5 grade. That was his best grade this season. And when you look at his grades, he had a rough spell in the Seattle, Tennessee kind of range. He had, games in the 50s, 30s, and 40s. But if you look in the last 4 or 5 games, his grades have been up in the 60s. His lowest is 58.8. Like, week 7 against Green Bay, from there on forward, 66.2, 58.8, 65, 68, 77.5. Buddha seems to be kind of getting back to being Buddha, which I love because I don't want him to not be a part of the future. So for me, Buddha having another good game and putting some strings of games together, even though he still has a 59 grade for the season, which is the lowest of his career, he's trending in the right direction. So maybe there was an injury thing. I don't know. For whatever reason, he had a rough kind of spell, rough patch in the beginning of the season. But now he's playing more like Buddha. And there's a reason I also am putting stock up on him that I'm going to kind of come back to when we get to the stock down, because I'm going to make a connection with another point I'm going to make later. So the safety room as a whole, I think, is stock up, right? Which is nice
Yeah.
to see. I'm going to say, hey, real quick to the folks who are in the chat, and then we'll kind of let you kind of comment on your thoughts on Buddha, and then get to your next stock up. So we got Silver Wolf in the chat. Let's go. Appreciate you, Silver Wolf, for being here as always. Grandizer doing what Grandizer does best, being the best mod in the game. Thank you so much. Bird, I know you jumped in here to let us know. Yeah, I was running behind. Behind the scenes, behind the curtain. So I do community theater here in my little town. I am going to be the ghost of Christmas Present in a Charles Dickens Christmas Carol, and I was at rehearsal, and I got a text from one Kyler Bird. Hey man, how's it going? I'm like, I might have said a few curse words, and then I'm like, yeah. Fortunately, it's a small town, so like, I got here and here we are. So yeah, we got gaming with this Apple. Thank you so much for being here, Mizaki Felix. Sup, Professor? Thank you for being here as well. We got Nick L. Is Baker playing Sundays? If not, we may have a shot. Yeah, I know they got some good news about Mayfield in terms of the injury. That's the headline I saw, so we'll see. And gaming with Sid Apple said if both they go win this, you have to fire Gann at this point. You don't fire him, that'll piss off 89% of the people. Listen, we'll be talking about that later. Hint, hint. Hint, hint. Lorenzo, thank you for being here. Lorenzo Tuaftawa, thank you so much. Appreciate you, a channel member and a really great member of our chat. And also, you often hear for some of the other podcasts. And by the way, make sure you check into Redbird Reboot and Bird and Gold podcast. Also here on the TCR, they're doing some great work over there. But thank you for being here with us, hanging out. We got Robert Moore. Good evening, Jess. Can we accept that our coaching staff is cheeks and refuses to county? Oh, we will talk about that, right? For sure. So I'm the wizard in the Wizard of Oz, literally. Yes. Buddha make it into yes, make it into sunshine person. I don't know that I can do that, but yes. Grandizer. Grandizer loves some of the voices I make, so I might get some of those in there. So, all right. Any thoughts on Buddha and or get to your next stock up?
Hey, Buddha looked like old school Buddha Baker again, and regardless of what happens, it's just nice to see because I think he is mine and yours, and most of ours favorite Cardinal of the past this era. You know, he is the Cardinal I think of when I think of this era of football for
Yes.
this franchise. So I just like seeing him play football at a high level. And if that means going into next year again with Buddha and Jalen headlining that safety room and then keeping and continuing to develop Rabbit and Keaton Crawford, that's cool with me too. Like they both provide special teams uh, upside, and they've found ways with three safety packages to get Rabbit on the field. So yeah, if that works out, that's fine. I am not looking for any sort of situation that has Buda Baker not on this team. So it is just music to my ears to see him playing at like Pro Bowl Buda Baker level again. The interception thing, I'm sorry. The interception thing, it's Buda. It's just not part of his game, but it's nice to see it happen when it happens.
Yeah.
And just overall, he had a great game too. They reduced his sack to a half sack, which I thought was ridiculous because Calais was a
Haters.
real late comer to that game. I don't really think he deserved a half sack on
Haters
that.
gonna hate.
Hey, yeah, I just want Buddha to get his full sack, pass defense, interception game.
Yes.
Like, that is a
Yes.
great game for him. But anyway, on to my next. You want to do my next stock up guy?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah.
All right, all right. Even though he only played 6 snaps, I feel like it's a good time to talk a little bit more about him since I don't think we have last week, and we really haven't had much of an opportunity to in general. But Walter Nolan, he
Mm.
only played 6 snaps because he did have some sort of knee injury, apparently. When I went back and watched, um, I'm pretty sure that injury actually came in this play that stood out in the game because he did not come back into the game after this. I don't think, but big man touchdown, those are always a lot of fun. Jalen Thompson, who I talked about just a minute ago, forces a fumble from Trevor Lawrence, and Walter Nolan one hand grabs that thing too. He's in the middle of being blocked by an offensive lineman. He pushes him off, one hand grabs a ball, and gets into the end zone. Now that is just sort of an interesting situation that you can't really count on happening very often. But just going back into some of his past few performances since he's been able to hit the field since Dallas, he's been playing really well for a rookie. And it makes me really sad that we have delayed development on him too, just because of an injury thing in the preseason. But what we have seen out of Walter Nolan so far looks like a hit, like what you would
Mm.
want a first round defensive tackle to look like. And so, looking at the past 2 years, we've taken 2 defensive tackles in the first round. The past 2 years looks like we've got about a 50% hit rate on that. Because Darius Robinson, I'm not going to say he's a bust, but he is not what you would want out of the 27th overall pick. I think we can all mostly agree on that. And Walter Nolan and what we've had, he looks like the 16th overall pick. He looks like one of the more talented defensive tackles in this class, just like he was touted. He is living up to the billing for him. And I think a healthy Walter Nolan, full development, is going to be a really, really good player for a long time. And if you can hit on that and for long-term future have a real stud defensive tackle, young guy to build around in the future, since we're obviously going into some other form of reset rebuild in this offseason, trying to get things figured out for 2026. That's a real good piece to have to already have
Mm.
that settled, not have to use high draft capital on that yet again. Just happy to see him look like the player that we hoped he would be. Like he seems like one who is going to work out.
Yeah, obviously we want to see the health, be more
Right.
consistent. That's the concern. Right? He missed, up a lot of games with injuries. He went out this game banged up. Haven't heard really much anything. Hopefully he'll be able to play. So you got to see him stay healthy. But when he's been healthy, right, he
Looks
has
good.
been and defensive tackles don't always come out of the gate right
Hmm.
hot. Right, sometimes they take a little bit of time. And man, he just has made an impact in his first 2 games, right? So it really gives us a lot of hope if they can keep him healthy. So I'm definitely with you, very excited. He's a big part of the future as long as, and we don't, listen, it could be just an outlier that he had a rough spell injury wise and it's just a blip, right? Hopefully that's the case and that this is not going to be a persistent problem.
I
Um,
mean, one thing I'll say real quick
mhm.
overall about this draft class, this most recent draft class, he's our third rookie from this class who had a PFF grade over a 90 at some point in their rookie season. Last week against San
Yeah.
Francisco, Walter Nolan was the highest scoring person on the field with a 90.3
Mm.
and 83.6 pass rush grade. So Denzel Burke has had that as well, and Will Johnson has had that. So this draft class in particular, 2025 draft class, uh, it looks pretty good. Even Cody Simon, who didn't play well enough for him to make my keep around list,
Hmm.
I like that he's getting playing time right now.
Yeah, for sure. And linebackers take a little time to develop. They've been talking about
Tough
this a lot of
position.
times. A lot of times, what you end up doing is finding a guy in his third or fourth year as a free agent, and they come in and they end up being decent, right? That tends to be how middle linebackers end up getting found. And um, Cody Simon, on 202 snaps has a PFF grade of 60.5
It's not
for a rookie
terrible. It's pretty
linebacker.
good.
Yeah, right. So yeah, completely agree. Right. I really like this draft class. The health is the one question, right?
Right.
But
Will and Walter. Yeah.
yes, for sure. So I'm gonna stay with linebacker, as I mentioned, linebacker, but more of an edge. The player I'm going to talk about is Zaven Collins. As far as a bring him back. Now, this is a little bit of a tentative bring him back because I got to be honest. Last week he was almost on my let him walk list. I've liked Zaven Collins as a player. I feel like he's been miscast as an edge. They've tried to turn him into an edge. I know they play their edge a little bit differently, at least the role he plays. But he just feels more like he should be an inside linebacker. But they're playing him at edge, but it just doesn't feel like the pass rush chops have developed the way you would like. I think he's better in coverage than he is in pass rushing. I think he is better suited for a middle linebacker. But I want to give him a nod because he had a good week. He had been having a little like his first 4 games graded pretty well, but he had a tough stretch in the middle of the season. A
Hmm.
lot of 40s and 50s. But he had a 76.7 grade, on 39 snaps, and his snaps were also up. He had been in the 20s for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, and this was 39 snaps. So the arrow has pointed back up for him. So again, it's a weekly stock watch, so we'll see how it goes from here. But he had a good game, and I want to give him a nod. And again, because for me he was on the bubble, of being a let him walk, send him packing. Um, but he had a nice week. So again, this is a little bit of a tentative. We need to see where he goes from here. Again, I like the player. I think the situation, but as I will talk about in a similar vein to what I will talk about with Buddha, I think also when I talk about one of my let him walks and unpacking, there's a little bit of a tie-in with Zaven as well there.
Yeah, Zaven, I've said it since they made the switch. The Cardinals' propensity to just mess around with linebackers' positions boggles the mind because it's gone through multiple coaching regimes at this
Mm-hmm.
point. We've seen it just like almost as a franchise trend, and I don't understand it. We wasted time with Hassan Reddick and let him go find success
Mm,
elsewhere.
right.
And Zaven Collins, I don't think he ever would have been like Bobby Wagner if you had kept him at middle linebacker, but you don't need that at middle
Mm-mm.
linebacker to have a successful defense either. And I think Zaven was the type of solid cerebral linebacker that you could have developed and have play for you for 12 years and have just like a solid career running the green dot, never does anything special, and that's totally fine. And that's in fact very valuable in the NFL because it's hard to find that. And I don't know that, like previous years with Kaiser White, How is that any improvement over what Zaven Collins could have been if he had just been kept at that position? And he does not have a pass rush arsenal at all. The
Mhm.
only value he really brings to the outside linebacker group is setting the edge. So as a rotational guy who's only out there for running downs,
Yeah.
sure, he's really good at that. I I agree that in this game he played very well and he deserves his laudits for that. And I'll say that I think a lot of disappointment or problems with Zaven Collins truly is not on him. It is how he
Mhm.
is used in that
Yes.
position, and coaching and how you coach to get the best out of your players is one of the most vital things in the NFL. And I don't think a lot of his problems are even his fault necessarily. I think he's like a really smart,
Mhm.
high work ethic type of guy who could have been just fine if he'd been left alone.
Let me add one more thing because as you were talking about it, also something else occurred to me. He's 6'4", 260. He is big for an inside
He's
linebacker, right?
huge.
That's why one of the reasons he moved an edge. But when you look at one of the shifts that's happened in the NFL for the last year or two,
Hmm.
it's moved back towards running being a bigger part of it, right?
Yeah,
Because things are cyclical, and what you saw was passing game was so dominant that teams started developing their play, their schemes and building their personnel around the nickel and having linebackers who were smaller and faster and better in coverage. And one of the things that's happened is that the reemergence of the running game, at least in part, is taking advantage of that market inefficiency in defense, right?
right.
Defenses now don't have the thumpers at middle linebacker. So now people are running and taking advantage of that. And like when you look at that, I see an argument for Zaven Collins actually being almost a unicorn in that kind of milieu of defense because he is a big linebacker
Hmm.
who can tackle, but he's also good in coverage,
Yeah,
right? So like if you had him as a middle linebacker, he can be a guy who can help against those big running backs and tackle them, but also is not a liability in coverage and gives you that versatility to be able to be suited for this contemporary sort of era of offensive football while still not giving up the strengths and coverage, right?
yeah.
Like in some ways, it feels like a missed opportunity with him right now.
Oh, 100%. Like it
Yeah.
in his 5 years, he has graded above a 71 in run defense 4 times. He had one
Mm-hmm.
terrible outing in 2022, graded real poorly in run defense. But other than that, even last year he had an 84.3
Mm-hmm.
in run defense, and his coverage grades are like not out of this world or anything. But
For linebacker, though.
if you're saying you need to cover
Mm-hmm.
um, running backs on wheels and Texas routes, and you need to cover some tight ends,
Mm-hmm.
and then be the thumper middle linebacker or stop the run. I agree with you. I think we missed an opportunity with him. We could have
Yeah.
just kept him at that position, and he would be a 5 year veteran running a green dot right now, and I'd feel pretty comfortable with that. But
Thanks for being here, Accelerator. We're glad you could join us, even if you're a little bit later. Um, okay, so who's next for you, Kyler?
well, I guess we have to move on to my send them packing,
Yes.
and I'll make my time with this rather quick and simple. Monty Fort. I'm looking at you, buddy. I'm sure he's going to pop into the chat here in a minute.
Hmm.
You have to replace the right side of the offensive line. The whole side. You need to go into 2026 with a vastly improved right guard and right tackle. Because what is happening right now is an absolute liability. Um, there were free rushers on the right side all game. And yes, Jacoby Brissett had like 49 dropbacks, something crazy. It's a lot of weird stuff is going on as far as passing game goes. But the right side is a complete liability to this team right now. It is impossible to run to the right side, and it is impossible to get good protection on the right side. And that goes for whenever Isaiah Adams is on the field, and unfortunately, it goes whenever Will Hernandez is on the field too.
Hmm.
Um, who did not expect that. I thought he would come in and save the day from the bad play of Isaiah Adams, and that's just not turned out to be the case. And like we've mentioned ad nauseum, the loss of Clayton Adams is apparently the worst thing that could have possibly happened to this team. Apparently, we should have thrown all the money we had at keeping him around, because I guess he was the linchpin of the offensive line working and having a decent run game. And then if we had a decent run game, I feel very comfortable in saying we've won at least 6 games if we had like a semi-efficient run game.
Yes.
But for who needs to go, you're not going to get rid of Isaiah Adams. He's on a rookie deal right now. He's going to stick around. Maybe he gets better. I hope he does. But Will Hernandez, he's on a 1-year deal right now. Don't see him coming back, unfortunately. Don't know what's going on with him. And Jonah Williams, praise God, this is the last year on his contract. He will be gone. Swing tackle Kelvin Beachum, can't see a way in which he plays another year at like 36 or 37, whatever he'll be next year. So some of the top draft priorities, looking forward to mock draft Mondays, will be tackles and guards. Particularly right tackle. And I think right now, if I had to guess, wherever we pick, wherever in the top 9, right tackle would probably be the position I go for right now. And thanks for taking my advice there, Monty. It's nice to see you in the chat.
Takes a big man to accept constructive criticism.
You ignored it this off season, and people mentioned it, but we were willing to overlook it because the 2024 offensive line looked good. The running game was good. It'll be all right. We need to fix the defense, and he did in a lot of ways, but not putting any capital into the offense now with hindsight looks like a massive mistake.
Yeah. I agree with you. When I look at this offensive line room, there are 2 starters that I want to bring back.
Absolutely.
Right. It's Paris Johnson Jr. and Hjalte Froholt.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few other developmental players I want to bring back because they're young, and let's see what we have in them, whether they're depth or starters, right? Let's bring Isaiah Adams back. He hasn't lived up to what you'd hope, but see if he can develop. There's tools there, right? John Gaines, hasn't played enough to know what we have in him. He's athletic. He's a backup. He's young. Continue to develop him. Christian Jones, because of injury, we haven't seen anything from him. He might have something. Bring him back, right? And Hayden Connor, they drafted him. If there's some of the other young guys you like, bring them back as depth and development. But as far as starters, there's 2 guys I want to see starting next year that are on this team, right?
100% agree.
And that's a big overhaul for one offseason, but they need to do it, right? There's probably going to be at least a 3rd starter who's here next year who's on this roster because it's hard to replace 3 starters. Maybe Evan Brown or maybe Isaiah Adams ends up starting, or maybe Christian Jones, but you need no less than 2 new starters that are not on the roster right now, ideally 3. Right. And ideally at least 1 more depth guy. Maybe you bring back one of your current starters as depth, maybe, but there's an overhaul needed. It is bad.
Yeah, like you've said many times over the past few weeks, the hope and I think the expectation is that this offseason, Monty Ossenfort will treat the offensive line as the project like he did for the defensive line this offseason. And if so, you can change a position group pretty significantly. If you make one decently sized move in free agency, you allocate some high draft capital to it, you can do it. 3 out of 5 is tough. And for the talk we've had about, I think the generally good job that he's done at building depth, now that we've had some time in the season, The offensive line, you got it, buddy. We do stand for Paris Johnson Jr. He is one of the
Yeah.
best tackles in the league right now, and it sucks that he's not getting that much attention because he's on a bad team. But like I was saying, the offensive line now, I think it has the worst depth. It has, like you said, two players of like true NFL talent right now, and the rest are backups at best. At best.
Yeah. Lance, thank you for being here. Long time part of our community. How are we doing? How do you do, fellow Cardiac Cards fans? Next, yes, we're looking to the future. Looking to the future. So you mentioned this. My next kind of let him send him packing, and we've talked about him a lot this season, a fair bit for a guy who is not doing much. And we talked about a young defensive lineman in Walter Nolan, who we love and what we've seen from him. Just seems to stay healthy, but looks like a star in the making if he can stay healthy.
Absolutely.
But one of my take send him packing is a guy that I want to root for because he seems like such a good guy. High character, work ethic, everything you want to see from that side of things, but just the play has been bad, and that is Darius Robinson. I've mentioned many times that, like, kind of like a moment, like water level PFF grade is 60, right? That's like that's like if when a player has one snap on, like, I don't know, a kneel down and they don't do anything, they get a 60, if that makes sense. It's just nothing bad, nothing good, right? And that's the average. So if you're averaging over 60, you're above average, below 60, below average, right? And then so on and so forth. This season, he has had one game with a grade over 60, and it was 63.3, so barely. A lot of 40s, 30s. Just when you look at his PFF grade, you don't want to see orange and yellow on PFF grades, mostly orange and yellow, some red. PFF graded 35.4 this year. Last year was 48.4. Last year was bad. It's worse this year. It just hasn't been good. Listen, I want him to do better. I wish he would kind of develop. He seems like, a good character guy, but it just hasn't been good. It just hasn't. And it just is really looking like, a disappointment. And unless there's a major turnaround, this is a one contract guy, if he even makes it through the first contract, isn't cut. So to me, the arrow was already down. He had a 37.3 grade this last game. This was his lowest graded game of the season. So the arrow's further down. Now, Grandize let's see. Lance is asking, have we spoken to Gaither? So we haven't talked about him. Yeah, he's been decent, but give Simon the start. Sure. At this point, let's play the rookies. Sorry. Anyway, so that's my take on Darius Robinson. What say you, Mr. Bird?
Well, I was just checking as you were talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good when your first round defensive tackle pick is your lowest rated PFF player for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. 3 out of the 12 weeks this season, he has been the worst player on all defensive players who got snaps. We're not even talking starting 11. Like, literally all defensive players who received snaps in a game. He was the lowest rated Cardinal for 3 weeks this year. And I saw a comment from Grandizer earlier that was positing, like, can we at least say, we can't say he's a bust, can we at least say that Darius Robinson is a disappointment? Absolutely, we can. This is a disappointing performance from someone drafted that high with his pedigree, with expectations he had. Yeah, he is a massive disappointment right now.
Yes.
This is his second year in the league, really his 1.5 year in the league. Just passing the halfway point of this season was sort of a full season's worth of games for Darius Robinson. So a little bit too early for a bust, maybe, but it is undeniable that he has not played to what the expectations were.
For me, I'm just not going to call anyone a bust until their time has ended with the team, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because when some like Isaiah Simmons bust, right? Hassan Reddick, not a bust, but we squandered his
Yes.
time here, right? Um, but like, there are players who kind of started slow and pick up, and they're not a bust. There are players, but I'm just he's trending towards being a bust. And when his time with the Cardinals is over, if he doesn't develop, then I will come bust. But for me, I wait until there's difference between bust versus disappointment. So many, to me, people start calling someone a bust. Like, people were calling Marvin Harrison Jr. a bust his rookie season, and I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's crazy.
that's ridiculous and premature. Will
Mm-hmm.
he end up being a bust? I don't think so. It's possible. I don't think so. But I'm not going to call someone a bust until they're gone from the organization. And then
Right.
you look back. It's a retroactive thing, right?
Yep.
But right now he's a disappointment. His play has been a disappointing, right? So, we'll see what happens, right? So yeah. So is it your turn or mine, Kyler? Let's check. I think Darius Robinson is who we're talking about.
I shoved both of my send them packing into one.
Okay,
So
so well, that's good. Let me bring up my next one. It is one we talked about last week. But one of the things you and I have talked about is if a player, their stock continues to go up or down, we can raise it. We can double dip. And I'm also bringing this person up because it ties to the two of my keep 'ems earlier. Because part of the rationale for those two players also has to do with this, and this is Jonathan Gannon, JG. He was sent him pack last week, lost again. Looking like we opened this live stream with a conversation. Are they going to win another game? In year 3, when you fall off that far, it just, what do you say, right? I mean, you were supposed to make the playoffs this year. If you barely missed, maybe we can live with that. But it's just, yeah, and I get it. They've a lot of close games, but it's just too far, right? But I want to spend less time talking about this and actually talking about how this connects to the bring them backs. Because the Buda Baker thing, he's got another year on his contract after this year because of a short extension they did. And part of my rationale for the bring him back as well, at the trending up, is we talk about he's playing better. He was having a little bit of a rough stretch. Buda Baker, love Buda, like we talked about. But the rationale of him maybe being on the way out is the age kind of taking its toll, and the money in the safety room, and so on and so forth. And if you're going to bring back Jalen Thompson, you have to re-sign him, sign an extension, because he has a void year next year. But here's the thing with Buda: if JG is gone, you want Buda in this locker room for the
yes.
beginning of the next regime,
Yes.
right? You want him to become a leader, connect to the new coaching staff, be sort of a representative of the coaching staff in the leader with the players as a leader. You want him as part of that transition. That's one of the reasons Buda, I'm tying it to this. If Jonathan Gannon's gone, which is what we're on it. We have him on a send and packing. It makes Buda Baker's return more important. And also tying it to Zaven Collins, if the next regime comes back and they actually move Zaven back to inside linebacker, you have a really good starting inside linebacker, right? On the roster. So maybe the next coaching staff also uses him in a role that you and I think both think he's better suited for. So this Jonathan Gannon going to me very much ties with some of the players that are now kind of stock up that might not have been as much before.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I fully agree that Buddha, you want that institutional knowledge there. The franchise guy, especially not knowing what's going to happen with quarterback, especially if the coach is gone, then it's even more likely that a coach will want his own guy coming in, that Kyler Murray will be gone, which we haven't been able to even talk about him in the new format because he hasn't been playing. but he is one of the major decisions coming up for this team, looming over everything, coach and quarterback. But I agree that Jonathan Gannon, I think he's lost the fan base
Mm-hmm.
almost completely at this point. You have the one small contingent out there that got real vocal with me on Twitter on Sunday for some reason. Sorry if I said offensive things. I didn't mean to, but some people did not like any criticism of Jonathan Gannon or this coaching staff. Because what are we supposed to do? Just hire people every 3 years? Well, yeah. If the coaches suck, yes.
If you
Yes,
succeed
you
to
do.
rebuild, maybe you do.
If you're a historically bad franchise, yeah, you kind of do until you find a guy that actually works. And to take it a step looking into the future, um, I think compared to what Jonathan Gannon inherited when we got him as a first-time head coach, I think in this next potential coaching cycle, Arizona is a more attractive spot than it would have
Mhm.
been for the Jonathan Gannon hiring cycle. The defense has some players on it. Like there is a lot more talent on this team than there was in 2022. I think that's fair to say. And I think it's a more attractive position for a head coach coming in to get his quarterback and have a fairly well put together team than a complete dumpster fire than 2022. So, yeah, if we lose out, how can you sell to a fan base that you're bringing the same coaching staff back if
Yeah.
in year 3 they potentially go 3-14? There has to be at least a scapegoat in the coaching staff, which I would assume would be Drew Petzing.
Mm.
But in the worst case of worst case scenarios, you bring the entire coaching staff back, you've lost everyone. And I
Yeah.
don't know how you get them back.
And Accelerator saying this will never have success under Bidwell. I mean, I'm not completely convinced that I think like the Bengals have a notoriously bad, kind of uh ownership group, and at least in terms of cheapness and such. And I know they're not having the best season, but like they get in a good quarterback and they've started to have some success, right? Maybe they're not the best example of crazy level of success. I absolutely agree. Bidwell is a problem for this organization and always will make it at a disadvantage. But I think, and I know some people have been down on Monty. I'm still high on Monty. And we've talked about that a lot. But I think you're right. You've got some more pieces. That there's a better roster, and coaches
Yeah.
come in. They know that they can look at the roster and see what's here, and they see a better roster. They see a general manager who has done a good job, who adult in the building, and if they can tell a coach coming in, listen, yeah, especially if we lose out, you are gonna get to draft your quarterback.
hmm I think if you're, and you think you should be looking for an offensive coach for the next guy, if you're looking for an offensive head coach in the next cycle and you say, hey, come here, Monty Ossenfort, will fix the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
We'll work together to find the exact quarterback you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you get Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride to play with.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. You got the best tight end in football,
Mm-hmm.
and two good wide receivers, and when healthy, good running backs. Like, this is a much better spot and a much more attractive position for a coaching candidate in 2026 than it was in 2022.
Yes, it's still got its warts, but it
Right.
is more attractive, especially if you've got a high draft pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, we're drafting 5. I'll
Mhm.
get you a right tackle, or we'll get your quarterback.
Yeah.
It is a lot more attractive.
Yeah. Yeah. Another disappointing week.
Yep.
This is I hate it here, right? Is that what they say?
Yeah, I hate it here.
uh Kyler, we're doing our thing. We're talking about the future of this team because the present doesn't give us much
It's
good to
too
talk about.
painful.
It's too painful. We got the Buccaneers,
Yep.
team that's good.
Yeah,
We're
good
probably
team.
gonna, it's gonna be a rough week, probably. Well, Kyler, where can people find you before we get out of here?
You guys can find me, as always, on Twitter, and you can find my weekly grade reports on Sports Illustrated.
Awesome. Y'all can find me here. You can find me on Twitter, JOKOMO13, Jokomo13. And listen, we're going to do this for the rest of the season. We're all suffering through this together, but we're here for you. It's our group therapy session. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you for everyone in the chat. If I missed anyone, I apologize. Thank you to Grandizer for all that you do, putting all the information in there. Thank you for being here. Happy Thanksgiving. Dakota Bedard's in there hanging out with us. Everyone, take care. Have a great Thanksgiving. Hope you have just a wonderful week, everyone. We'll see you next week. And remember, it's not the wins and loss, but the friends we make along the way.
Exactly.
Because that's all we're getting out of this.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later.